doubts crept in. So you know what I did? I left behind my doubts. So now he's leaving his doubts. Yep, I left them right there on the ground. Oh, you're not going to believe what the doubts look like.
I think it's a really neat area just for the community to enjoy and as a community asset. It's great to see people out already. I think when the spray park gets open and with this, we're going to have a crowded summer down here, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
This is a project of true regional significance, and it also will be our only way in and out of the city around the railroad tracks. And those of us who live in Marysville and have lived here for a long time are so grateful for that.
This is a great example of how government at all levels comes together to really respond to issues and to make our communities better.
This right here gives us a pristine field that'll be able to be used by everybody year-round out here. Not to mention, with the lights and the seating, to be able to attract, some really nice events, I think.
Always we remember the courage of the first responders in New York.
Thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. I think we could move straight to questions after watching that. But Bridget and Connie and the communications team did a really marvelous job on that video. And there's a longer version too, but we can use that in a whole host of venues. So I really want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come out and hear the State of the City address. This is really the time of year when we can give an expansive overview of everything going on in the city, most things, and then a little snapshot of some of the things coming as well. I do want to offer a few thank yous. I get the pleasure of coming and getting to share all this stuff with you, but there's so many people involved in the successes and in the things that we do on a day-to-day basis here. I want to start with our city council. It's a real honor to work with our city council, all 7 members of it. We don't always agree on everything, but I'll tell you, we always are pressing forward to do what's right for Marysville. And there's not a lot of drama with your elected leadership in Marysville, I think, because we just kind of try to keep our heads down and nose to the grindstone. And that's a real tribute to your city council here that does their job day in and day out. And I just really, really appreciate working with these 7 individuals. So if you could raise your hands as I mention them. Kelly Richards, Steve Muller, Tom King, Mark James, Peter Condelius, Camille Norton, and Michael Stevens. I don't know if Michael's here, but Michael Stevens also serves on the city council. And so yeah, give them a hand for me if you could. Appreciate their service. Another body that contributes a lot to the planning in the city of Marysville is our Planning Commission. I know there's at least a couple, Gary Kemp and Zebo Zhu, I saw come in today. Did I miss a planning commissioner that's here? But they do great work as well. If you could raise your right hands and or raise your hands, you're not getting sworn in. You used to swearing people in here. And I wanted to thank Linwood Mayor Christine Frizzell's in the audience for coming down. We partner on a lot of things, so thank you for coming and attending tonight. If you could indulge me for just a bit longer, my senior leadership team, the director team, means a lot to me. These people put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, and we work really closely together on a daily basis. I'd like to recognize all of them and have them raise their hand, and then you can give it maybe an applause at the end if you don't mind. Our city administrator, Gloria Hiroshima, who's been here for over 30 years in multiple different roles and just does an amazing job in so many facets of the city. Police Chief Eric Scarpin, back there. Community Development Director Haley Miller. Information Services Director Stephen Dotery. He's over there working the systems. He doesn't have time to raise his hand. He's busy. Finance Director Jennifer Ferrar Santanas. Public Works Director Jeff Laycock. Human Resources Director Megan Hodgson. City Attorney John Walker. Parks, Culture, and Recreation Director Tara Mizell does an amazing job. Did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. And then Chief, we have a regional fire authority here. They don't report directly up to the city, but I do want to recognize Chief Ned Vanderpool, who is the chief there. I know he was here. Yeah, there's Ned. Thanks for coming. And then I want to thank the staff that really helped put this together. Connie Meny did so much work on this presentation. She was up here a bit earlier introducing me. Bridget Larson, great work on that video and other things. Sarah Calvin's running the slideshow over there, and Riley as well. So if you could give them all a hand, I would appreciate it. So we'll start. I always like to give a city snapshot. And thank you to those joining us online too. We appreciate that. It's a full house here at City Hall, and we also offer this online for those that aren't able to come down here. Here's a snapshot of where we're at. Second largest city in the county, almost 74,000 residents now. And so it's always fun to kind of just see that to kick things off. And then we move into the operating budget, because you can't operate a city, any size city, certainly our city, without this operating budget. We do you'll see a pie chart and some different things on the slide here. Our city operates under a 2-year budget. And so that means that 25-26 is our next budget year. So that's what the council and I will be working on here this year. In fact, we'll start in February with a little day-long meeting over at the Opera House and kind of get things set, get priorities set. And then we will move into aggressively looking after the budget for the entire year. So that's how that works in the city of Marysville. The pie chart, the general fund is $69 million. And then we have enterprise funds that are another $58 million on that. So the difference between those, the enterprise funds are like your water, your sewer, and your garbage. Those are fees. And so those can't be moved around. In other words, the money you pay on your city utility bill, for good reason, we can't just take that and say, well, we're going to go hire police officers or spend that on streets. That all stays there. So that's an enterprise fund. So when you look at a city budget, sometimes you see this number and you think, boy, a lot of money, as you can see, almost half of that is locked into those. And then you've got your general fund, which is more the money that I'll present a budget on, and the council will ultimately have the final decision on how that money's spent. It's important to note, too, when you open up your property tax bill, I get this question a lot. It's reasonable to think when I open up my property tax bill in the city, wow, most of this money must be going to the city. In reality, that isn't the case. Only 14% of your property tax bill goes to the city of Marysville. And we take that money real seriously. We understand the hard work that you do to earn those funds. And so that 14% that we utilize, we take real seriously, and we are as efficient as we possibly can. Beyond that, we're also very diligent about being really cautious about raising that rate. And I'm pleased to say that the council and we haven't raised that rate since 2012. So it's been over a decade since you've seen any kind of property tax rate increase in the city of Marysville. I don't know that there's another city in the state that can say that. But at any rate, we tend to go to the voters when we need something. And you guys voters have been pretty faithful in honoring that. When we don't need something, we don't take the property tax increase. When we went to the voters for the new police station down there and everything, they voted that in. The Transportation Benefit District voted that in. So I think it's a good way to do business. We also have a AA+ bond rating that our finance teams worked incredibly hard on. That means that your debt comes at a lower rate than it would if we had a much lower rating. We've gotten 2 upticks in that over the last several years. So it really increases our efficiency there. 15 years of clean financial audits. I'm really pleased to announce to you, and again, our finance department and all our departments work really hard to earn those clean financial audits. We know that trust and care of public money is paramount. And so if we make a mistake, we're honest about it and transparent about it, but the clean financial audits are great to see. So with that, I wanted to go over a little bit more on the broad expense categories that you'll see. So what are the biggest departments? What are the departments that take the most of the tax dollars? Well, Public Works and Public Safety. Those are by far your 2 biggest departments in the city. And 54% of it goes to Public Works, as you can see. Now, keep in mind, a lot of that is the utility money, the water, sewer, garbage. And then Public Safety at 31%. And that's similar for most communities. We prioritize these 2 departments as they're the biggest, and they also deliver the most services in a lot of ways to the city. And so I want to just let you take a moment to look through in the general fund. You'll see some of the categories there that are beyond police and Public Works. Streets is a significant amount of our investment, and so forth. Our finance team, I should also mention, as a popular annual finance report that's pretty easy to read. If you want to get a deeper dive into this, you can find that on our website. And there's also an open checkbook feature where you can kind of drill down on the different expenses. So let's move into the departments themselves. As mayor, public safety, there's no greater responsibility, let's put it that way, for public officials, I believe, than public safety. There's a lot of big priorities, but none of them are greater than that. I think the city council has consistently subscribed to that theory as well. We believe in keeping our community safe. We believe in fighting crime. You'll see some of the ways that we do lead with compassion for people that are struggling with addiction and whatnot, but we also believe strongly in accountability here in the city of Marysville. You know, you've got to have accountability, and you've got to have consequences when folks do break the law. Sometimes that's lost. It appears like it's getting lost on society, but we still believe in that here in Marysville, and we equip our officers to do that to the degree that we can. Sometimes we get overridden by laws of higher jurisdictions, but our police officers responded. Look at the calls for service here. Over 71,000 calls for service here in the city of Marysville. This chart, you know, back in 2014, we actually had more, but you can see it kind of moves up and down. But that's a lot of calls, and it's almost a 10,000 call increase compared to last year. And this includes 1,637 traffic-related calls. We have also what's called area emphasis patrol areas. So sometimes as citizens, I think you can drive around and probably see, boy, this area is a tough area. You know, let's be honest, our north end, a lot of thefts take place in those stores out there. You could probably rattle off a few others to me. We're aware of that. The chief and I go over these numbers. We go over it with our public safety committee on the council every single month. So your elected officials are aware of these areas. And the strategy that our police leadership has taken is to develop some area emphasis patrol areas where we're going to spend some extra time, put some extra folks there, some extra eyeballs, work with some of those business owners to try and bring those things down. So we've had almost 1,500 calls to the area emphasis patrols. That's a lot. And then we've had about 1,465 911 calls and almost 1,000 follow-up calls. And so it's a lot of calls and a lot of great work by our police department. I am genuinely proud of the work that this police department does here in the city of Marysville. It is an amazing group, from the chief and his leadership team all the way down to every single member of that team in all areas of the department. Just do amazing work keeping you and our community safe and really fighting an uphill battle against, some of the things that have gone on the last several years in particular. So what about crime levels? So crime levels have gone up. We're honest about crime levels when they go down. We're honest when they go up. They've gone up 2% over last year, which isn't an enormous amount, but we never like them to go up at all. And so, we take that seriously and we look at strategies to drive that back down. So it's a 2% increase over 2022. It is 24% lower than the 2014 levels. So similar to when you look at the call volume here, the crime levels in 2014 were quite high as well. I will say that, as we look at crime here, our city and our city council and myself, we've really prioritized ordinances and things that give our officers the tools to go out and fight crime. And I'll be perfectly honest, sometimes we're overridden by state laws that don't allow us to fully implement those. That's unfortunate. Mayor Frizzell and I are two members of a 16-member group of mayors and business leaders for Snohomish County, all across the ideological spectrum. Because public safety really isn't about political affiliation or ideology. At least when you're a mayor or a city council member, you are hearing from your citizens directly. You've got problems to solve, and you really don't care which party solves them. You just want solutions. And so mayors and business leaders for public safety is proof of that, because you have almost every single mayor in the county is a member of that group. And believe me, there's a wide variety of political ideologies on that. And we have lobbied hard at the state legislature to change laws. I will give the legislature some credit. Last year, two of the things we fought hard for were some changes to the Blake decision and the pursuits law. And I'll just touch briefly on this. The Blake decision, if you don't know, was a Supreme Court decision a few years back that basically legalized drugs across the state. And the legislature kind of codified that, and they did put an enforcement measure in, but you had to have two full warnings, and only on the third time could you arrest someone. So if if somebody was out here in Comfort Park doing drugs, you'd have to warn them once. If you somehow caught them doing it again, you'd have to warn them again. And if miraculously they stayed in your community and did it a third time, then you could prosecute them. Well, very few people were getting prosecuted because they'd figure out that I need to move along. Anyway, so the legislature, to their credit, took that piece out, and that was a good move, and it's helped us be more effective in that. So I appreciate that they did that. The pursuits law was another issue. A lot of police departments don't pursue much anymore at all. They include, most chiefs are pretty conservative about when you want to pursue. But what we don't want to do is announce to the criminal world that we're never going to pursue you, because that just gets what you had after we announced that statewide with the pursuits legislation. Record numbers of stolen cars and people racing out of stores with product and getting to their car because it was a safety zone. Once you got to the car, they couldn't take off after you. Well, to the legislature's credit, they have made some corrections to that as well. So we think our mayors and business leaders group and all our city council members and all the elected officials at a local level had some impact on that. And to the credit of the legislature, they also listened and made some changes. I would personally like to see more changes and a little bit stronger approach to public safety in our state, but we'll continue to work on that. So what do we do to lead with compassion as well? It's not just a heavy-handed approach. We know that the vast majority of our property crimes in the city of Marysville, and I'm quite certain it's the same all across the state, are due to the drug problem, the drug epidemic that we're facing across this country. A good portion, the majority of our crimes are committed because people are feeding a drug habit, or they're dealing drugs, or they're doing something with the drug trade. So if you could magically wipe out the drug problem across the country, you would see a dramatic improvement in crime strats all across. And it would probably be to the point where it would be almost unnoticeable, at least with property crimes. So what that tells us is we're going to have accountability here. If you commit theft, you commit these crimes, you public drug consumption, you're going to have accountability. But we also know we got to try to figure out a way to get you off those drugs, or else you're just going to cycle in and out of jail. You're going to be in the courts and back out. You'll never get through that. That's not a solution for the person tragically addicted to the substance that they're addicted to. And it's certainly not a solution for you, the taxpayer that pays for all that, or that has to deal with it out on the streets. So nobody wins with that. So we have an embedded mental health and social worker team that's done amazing work. It's been stood up for 5 or 6 years now, and these stats right here are not uncommon for every single year, how many people we were able to get into inpatient substance use treatment. We've had years with even higher than that, and intensive outpatient housing secured. It's just an amazing program. And our city council also passed at the end of last year, we put together some legislation on mandatory minimum sentences. I want to explain a little bit about that. So if you commit crimes that are related to the drug trade, particularly theft, public drug consumption, illegal trespassing, things like that, if you do it 3 times and are caught 3 times, you have a 30-day mandatory minimum in the jail. Now let me walk through this a little bit. 20 years ago, that would have been like, wow, that's the least you could do. But nowadays, you really have to explain this, or you look hard-hearted. So imagine this. So you commit that crime 1 time, you get prosecuted, and you get convicted in a court of law. You go through, and whatever happens, maybe you get 5 days in jail. Who knows what you get? You're back out. You decide, I'm going to go ahead and do that again, that theft or whatever I was doing. And you get caught, and you get prosecuted, you're convicted again. Now, who knows how many times you've committed the same crime in this community or another community and not gotten caught. In most cases, it's several, believe me. You decide, I'm going to go out again and do the same exact thing and get convicted and caught. By that 3rd time, I think that the council and I believe, okay, this isn't working. Whatever it is isn't working. It's not helping you because you're addicted to the substance. Your life is a mess. It's not working for all the citizens that are dealing with their car getting broken into and the stores and everybody else. Not working for anybody. And so we need a timeout. And we need you to get in the jail facility long enough where you can dry out and have a reasonable conversation with one of our embedded social workers and hopefully turn your life around and get you into an inpatient treatment program or something like that. And the reason that is because the average jail stay without that is about 5 to 6 days for most of these crimes. Not long enough to get to that point. I will tell you this, when we get people into our jail, this isn't the idea of we just want to throw all these people in jail and leave them there. Nobody pays attention to them. That's not the case at all. Our facility is a modern facility. They receive nursing care in there, have access to that every single day. They can get Suboxone and other treatments that'll help alleviate the withdrawals from their drug addiction as they slowly come down. They're given 3 square meals a day and attention from the team in there, as well as attention from our mental health workers and our embedded social worker team. So the whole goal around this is to, yes, get you off the streets and have some consequences, but to get a timeout and to get you to a position where you agree to go out of jail into an inpatient treatment program. I'm talking about the people that are addicted to a substance. If there's no substance involved, then that's a completely different game. A good chunk of the people in there, though, have this issue. And I will tell you that a large portion of people that are in those stats that go into inpatient treatment come out of our jail. So we know it works. We know it works. It's not, does it work? It works, at least in Marysville. I think it probably would work everywhere, but we know it works here. And I've had personal testimony. People contact me and say, I've had literally people who went into jail, multiple people say, if you hadn't done that tough love in Marysville, I would be a mess right now. Instead, they're working in some of our restaurants, working in landscaping or painting or whatever, and it's a real chance at life for them. So wanted to kind of just highlight that for a minute. I thank our city council for standing strong on that as well. So what about our custody operation? You see there how many bookings we've had. The amount of money we're saving the citizens, we put a measure before you, I think 5 or 6 years ago, and the citizens voted in to build that jail and a new police department. The one on Grove was built when we were a city of maybe 10, 11, 12,000. We had officers working in glorified closets, and we had a jail that was, we were not able to receive a lot of folks, especially when we had to clear out a whole dorm for detox and stuff. So you paid for that, and it's a great investment. I will tell you this. If we did not have that facility, and Linwood and Marysville are the only 2 with municipal jails, and I can tell you that the other mayors wish they had one. Because when you don't have a municipal jail, it means you catch and release a lot. Because either you can't afford to pay to put it in the other facilities that are available, or they just won't take them. Same thing with court, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's a real advantage. And so had we had to take all the people that we've put in our facility and put them, say, in Snohomish County Jail, that would have been $3.7 million. This is another important part of our police operation. We've put a real emphasis on beautifying our community, so we try to do that at the city level with a number of initiatives. And we have citizens that also want to see their neighborhoods beautified. So as you can see, there's a ton of cases that come into our code enforcement where people are just saying, hey, is there anything we can do about this situation? And so we usually are able to get voluntary compliance. That's the goal. We're not really interested in finding people and going the hard route. Occasionally of a really tough case where we have to do that, but generally when people are approached and given time to clean it up, they will. And so great job by our code enforcement team. Hiring and recruiting is a really big deal. I think when I spoke with you last year, if you were here, we were really, really in a tough spot. I think we had probably upwards of 15 to 18 open positions in our police department and across custody and other areas. Well, I'm pleased to say that we've hired, through the great work of our police leadership team and our human resources team, 12 new police officers, 2 custody officers, 1 community support officer, and 7 in our records department. Now, hiring is the first step. You've got to get them into academy, get them through the 5 months or so of academy, and then their post-academy training on the street. So you've got a pretty lengthy gap from hiring to getting them on the street. But we have several police academy graduations. The chief was at one yesterday. So we're slowly picking away at this problem, and we already have less of a staffing problem. We're getting close to the point where hopefully later this year we'll be able to stand up some of our specialty units that can really attack some of these problems on a proactive basis. Emergency response times are really low, as a credit to our team. Average is about 4 minutes on a priority incident, which is really good. And we also have reinstated our traffic team. Traffic enforcement is something the community talks to us about a lot. And so we do have that stood up and are beginning with a scaled back team, and we'll add to it as we can. So what are some of the other things that we do? Emergency management. I'm really pleased to let you know that we're a city that's large enough now to have our own emergency management department. A lot of smaller cities contract with DEM at the county, which does a fabulous job. The only reason we take it in-house when we get to this size and we're able to get certain grants and different things is because you can do a lot more when you have your own team. Sarah Lavelle and her team do an amazing job with this. You can see some of the stats there, and if you want to sign up for Marysville Alerts, we can help you do that online. We have activated our Emergency Operations Center on numerous occasions. Typically, there are weather events lately, some of the cold snaps, the snow that we had the past couple of years, flooding events, things like that. National Weather Service has actually recognized Marysville as a storm-ready city for the high level of severe weather preparedness. That's due to the work of this team. We also have, if you're a business owner or want to let any of your friends who are know, a Marysville Ready Business Program, which has become increasingly popular this year. It recognizes business who have taken concrete steps towards emergency preparedness. We give them a certificate, and they're part of this program, and it helps to prepare them and also prepare them in the event that they have customers in their store and are dealing with this. So it is a good program. There's a sister program dedicated to neighborhoods that will be introduced later this year as well. So public engagement with this team is also high. CERT trainings, we've had 63 of those. I want to thank our Marysville Regional Fire Authority who partners with us on that. Preparedness trainings for parks, adult and senior programs, and disaster preparedness tailored for people with disabilities also. And I'll just take a moment, while the Regional Fire Authority obviously doesn't report up to me since they're part of this, to just thank the chief and his team for the great work they do. Much like our police officers, emergency medical services and fire have been under great strain over the last several years. 4 of our city council members are on the Regional Fire Authority board. They and the administration do an amazing job really turning this into a modern, effective regional fire authority to protect you in the event you have a fire or a disaster like that. But in many ways, the emergency medical services are the ones that really get utilized. I wanted to talk a bit about the Cascade Industrial Center. This, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. This is the plot of industrial land from 136th north through the Arlington Airport. So we partnered with the city of Arlington on this. This has been about a 20-plus year project. Gloria is probably the only one that has been through all of it, and she's done a great job helping to lead this effort. But the idea here was that we are largely a bedroom community, meaning most of our citizens, hit I-5 or 405 and travel pretty long distances and deal with traffic to get to their place of employment. We would like to have a way for people to find family wage jobs, or more of them. There are some, obviously, more family wage jobs in our community. our kids growing up in high school learning the trades or whoever it might be. And so we've protected this land for a long time. A lot of developers wanted to turn it into housing over the last couple of decades, and the council and I were really diligent about saying, no, this is really the only plot of land of this size from the Canadian border through Olympia, through the Kent Valley, wherever, that you could put this together. And once it's gone, it's gone. So if you just put a bunch of houses up there, you wouldn't have it available as a jobs base. And so it took a long time, but we worked hard on it. We got it designated as a manufacturing industrial center by the Puget Sound Regional Council, which is government speak for it gets us in the game for a lot of people looking to move their business here from out of the state or even internationally. I want to thank Economic Alliance Snohomish County and Wendy and her team and the Port of Everett, Snohomish County that has done an amazing job helping us with that. And the PSRC is the one who designates that a manufacturing industrial center. So that opens up infrastructure dollars and markets it so that we can get businesses here and things like that. So a few of the stats here I think that would be important. Currently more than 100 manufacturing or warehouse related businesses are operating in the CIC today. And this is just a few short years. It's gone a lot faster than we thought it would. A few of those, Tesla, Gravitics, if you don't know about Gravitics, they're a space module company. So they build space modules that be able to house people up in space. So if you decide to take a vacation in space one day, you might be living or staying in a module that was built right here in the city of Marysville. Solely Organic is another one that's opening in 2024. Solely Organic is an organic herb company that will distribute nationwide, and so that's another great business. We have some others coming, even one we met on today that we can't announce yet, but we're looking forward to that here shortly. And several million square feet of buildings under construction, including Cascade Business Park, Twin Lakes Logistics, Salacia Processing, which will be a food processing plant, North Sound Industrial Park, and Marysville Corporate Center. So again, the idea is to create family wage jobs. Some of them are high tech, some are the trades, and just hopefully provide more of that here in the city of Marysville. I will say we did get you see photo down there a couple weeks ago, Governor's Smart Communities Award for this, so that was a neat recognition for all the hard work. What about other businesses? Leave that slide up for a minute to let you just glance through. We continually have several new businesses moving into Marysville every single year, and we're really proud of our kind of small business mentality here. We know and understand the struggle it is to run a small business and operate one. We also know the services that provides to our community and also the jobs that it provides. Everett Clinic was one that opened this past year up on Soper Hill, a neat facility, our third Everett Clinic in the community. If you like pickleball, Volley Indoor Pickleball facility opened here, and it's a great time of year to go into volley. We also have our outdoor pickleball courts at Jennings Park for when the weather's a little better. And we're really glad to see Marysville's auto row growing. Kendall opening 2 new facilities, a Ford service center and a Subaru dealership. You know, when I first doorbelled the city when I was running for city council the first time, it's funny, this was a long time ago, but now you wouldn't necessarily see this, but what I heard the most wasn't public safety, wasn't streets, wasn't anything like that you would hear today. It was, can you please get businesses and auto dealerships and restaurants here so we don't have to go, pardon me, Mayor, so we don't have to go to Linwood and Everett to go to a restaurant and buy a car. We can people really want to keep the money in their own community, and they don't want to travel, right? And so I think it's a real testament to a lot of community support and a lot of hard work and a lot of policies put in place that we do now have that. We have an auto row where you can buy a lot of different cars out there. We have a lot of restaurants and a lot of, we have our own Costco and Target and all that, as well as we have the cultural center, kind of the 3rd Street in the business community right downtown here that brings that cultural center and that small town feel that we also support and seek to maintain. And so, public transportation and infrastructure, Jeff will let you know, we talk about this a lot. I love transportation infrastructure. I really do, because I've grown to realize over the years how critical this is to a city. And it doesn't matter whether it's just getting citizens to and from their house, to and from work, whether it's getting goods to market, whatever it is, transportation infrastructure is a big deal, and it's hard to get it. Hard to get big dollar investments in this. So I want to start, I guess, by saying thank you to the citizens who in 2014 voted that 0.2% sales tax measure in. for what's called the Transportation Benefit District. That brings in about $3 million a year, which we use to maintain our roads, to build new sidewalks, and to match. We further that money by matching federal and state grants that often bring in millions of dollars for bigger projects that we have to have matching funds for. So that's an existing tax that exists today. It was a 10-year tax, so you might have a ballot sitting on your counter right now that is asking you to consider renewing that. Again, that would not be a new tax. It's an existing tax you voted in 10 years ago. And the question is, will you renew that so we can continue to overlay the roads and build new sidewalks and do things like that? Some of the ones on the docket, if we could go to the next slide, that's kind of an idea of what we do every year. What was really neat about this, I'll tell a brief story that I told our employees the other day. Max, our city engineer, and I were driving around one day. We were visiting some different job sites where they were doing overlays. And I had a citizen contact me, I think that morning or the day before, say, hey, my road's a mess, really ground down. We drove out and met with him and his wife. And we had the team go inspect it. This is a very scientific thing. We don't just don't want to give it that. We don't just, because someone calls, hey, we'll overlay your road. It's a scientific method where if it meets the age of the road and where it's getting worn down to the level, we put it in there. And this was a road that was kind of out of the way, so maybe we had missed it or we had it projected further out, but we were able to add it in, and it got overlaid last year. And so that's an idea of what we do with that in addition to these. But the two at the bottom are really important too. That's where we leverage some of this money to get $4.2 million in federal money to do really deep fixes to State Avenue, First to Grove, 116th, I-5 to State, which you'll see here completed later this summer. So important work. Another big transportation project, which Jeff and his team have just done an amazing job on, is widening of State Avenue all the way. I know it's been a lot of construction for a lot of years. You're going to see it come to an end later this year with the final segment of 104th to 116th. And so that'll go up to 3 to 5 lanes, and that means that from right down here, from First all the way out through 172nd, you'll have a 5-lane arterial there. This is really, really critical for the growth of our city. We project that to be completed in the fourth quarter of this year. Over the past 20 years, the city and the State Transportation Improvement Board have invested $50 million in this project. We've gotten so much state grant money for this. I think that's important. You know, we looked through our grant dollars. We've gotten hundreds of millions of state and federal grant dollars into Marysville. Why is that important? Well, you all pay a lot of taxes, as do I and all of us, outside of the community, to state and federal level. So it's our job to figure out how to go and get a good chunk of that back here. I mean, in some ways, we wish, it was more of a bottom-up system that we had, but we don't. So the council and I are really, really fanatically diligent about how do we get the maximum amount of that dollars back. We take it really seriously. We have a plan we execute every single year on that includes meetings and visits and follow-up calls and all kinds of research, and our public works team and our staff really supports that. And we've been fortunate to bring, just in things like some of the interchanges we'll talk about close to $200 million in infrastructure money, and then stuff like State Avenue, another $50 million. So you can see it adds up really quick. Another project that I wanted to touch on here as we go to the next slide is this shoulder widening. This is another real grassroots project. Have any of you been to a coffee clutch before? A few of you, yeah, okay. So I try to hold a coffee clutch. We'll just use this as a moment to plug that every couple months or so. And we have a lot of them here, but we move them around the city as well. So we had one last summer out at Lakewood High School. Our North End residents, wanted to take it out to them. So that's a long ways for them to come in here. So we went out there, and the thing we heard about most was this little area here. They said, it's so unsafe to walk on 172nd. There's so much multifamily out there. We've got a lot of kids walking to and from school, other people trying to walk, and even the track team was trying to jog out there. And so they pleaded with us, really, is there anything we can do? Well, that's a state roadway. And so, but Jeff and the team, rather than punting it to the state, said, well, let's see what we can do to fix it. And we got with WashDOT. WashDOT was a great partner in this. And our team did some engineering, proposed a temporary solution until when development comes in, there'll be frontage improvements that'll really do a more permanent solution. But we're able to create this pathway here, widening the shoulder between 16th Drive and 23rd Avenue Northeast. And the Transportation Benefit District money funded that, and so you're going to see that project come to fruition if you live out that way or even travel out that way here later this year. So that's a great safety project. This is one of my favorite projects of all time. It's also been one big headache. Will tell you that I'm going to tell a story. I told this at the chamber the other day, so if you heard it twice, I apologize. But so I came out of the private sector where we were used to quick results on things. So government can be a little less efficient in that area sometimes, just because it is. And so I remember sitting down with our public works director, Kevin Nielsen, and I was like, hey, you know, Fourth is really tough, and the train tracks, we don't have a way in and out of the city around the tracks. We were planning to build, and the council was planning to build a First Street bypass. Most of our growth was up here in these neighborhoods in the Sunnyside and Whiskey Ridge area. And so, how about we're talking about how about an interchange here onto 529? This concept had been looked at before, and everybody kind of just, it's too expensive, it'll never happen. So I remember he told me, he said, well, I'll tell you this, if you have an idea like this for an interchange, from the day that you and I sit down and talk about it, like today, until it gets constructed, you're talking, if it was breakneck, record-breaking pace, almost unheard of, it's 10 years. And I was like, I do not like that answer. That's not a good answer. 10 years is too long, but here we are. That was 2015, and well, 2014 really. 15 we got it funded, and we are 10 years later. But we're gonna hit it here in the next year or two, so we're coming in close to that. But it was funded through Connecting Washington, a straight transportation package in 2015. We went out to bid a couple years ago, and Jeff and I got the news that nobody bid on the project because of inflation and worker shortage and all that. So the state said nobody's bidding on it. So we had to go back to the state legislature, and to their credit, they stepped up to the plate. That's why we had Senator Robinson there at that groundbreaking. She did yeoman's work to really lead that charge to get the backfill money so that we could complete this project. So thankful to our state legislative team that really stuck with us, because this is a state-funded project. The county also helped with some initial seed money, as did the city council, to get the thing designed so we would be competitive for state grants, but almost all the money is coming from the state. So thank your state legislatures for that infrastructure money. And the HOV lane that you see, the extra lane on northbound, that's being constructed now, makes I-5 a little tougher. That'll be done by the end of the year. Then the off-ramp onto 529 and the corresponding on-ramp up onto I-5 will be probably Q4 of 2025. So we're getting closer. This is a project we partnered with Tulalip on. I'll just let the illustration kind of speak for itself. 88th is the toughest area. It's an area that doesn't have a lot of solutions. There's not a lot of room on either side. You've got a cemetery as you get further, further east there. Presents some issues. And so we worked with Tulalip, and we went to the state legislature and asked them to fund this. About $19 million were needed to finish the funding on this. And again, the state legislature did step up and fund this. So kudos to them, recognizing a growing community and helping us to fund these projects. Waterfront development. I want to kind of talk a little bit about the waterfront. This is an area, kind of like the Cascade Industrial Center was a jobs base. We have a long-term plan for the waterfront as more of a quality of life or an amenities-based area. Some of the things we're doing, like treating stormwater. We have a downtown stormwater treatment facility that you'll see here later this year. We received almost $8 million from Department of Ecology for that. It'll have kind of a neat park amenity feel to it, an area to sit and kind of enjoy, but it also will have a very tangible problem that it's solving in treating 460 acres of stormwater as it enters EB Slough. So nice job by our team taking a public works project and turning it into a parks project as well. The 2nd Street LID, which you can drive right now, similar to 3rd Street, had added rain gardens to treat stormwater, ADA ramps, curb extensions, and landscaping. So kind of environmentally, aesthetically pleasing, and traffic safety, making it more walkable is the idea. We have the 1st Street bypass where you can zip down, and you got 4th as well. So 2nd and 3rd are more areas where people can be a little more leisurely. And then the Riverwalk project, we should talk about that. So this is a long-term project, and we should be real clear about that. But we do have a vision, the council and I and city staff, a vision of park amenities down here. We own a good chunk, pretty much the whole land down there by the waterfront. So on this side, looking at public park amenities, and on the other side, looking to bring some public-private partnerships into play. Things like a hotel, some housing, and then you've heard talk also of a indoor tournament-style youth sports facility. Now, it should be known that that's primarily a private project. I'm not saying there won't be any public investment at all, but that's primarily going to be driven by the private sector. So there is no funding for that right now. It's a concept, and I think a great one, but you've got to find a developer that can get the investors to put that into play. The good news is the county's been looking at this for 6 or 7 years. I remember meeting with county on this 6 or 7 years ago, and they had a number of sites. They narrowed it down to 3. And then just last year picked Marysville as the site for this facility. So we are the preferred site, but there's still a lot of work to do to find a developer and put it all into place. But that's the plan down there. Expansive growth in our community programs too. Boy, you know, our Parks, Culture, and Recreation team does amazing work. A lot of weekends and nights involved, but it pay off with just such amazing community events. You know, if you aren't aware, we opened up a new community center at the old courthouse, just a little bit north of here on State. And we knew we were too crowded in the building that was here. And that proved true as in the first year it was open here, as we've had nearly 21,000 participants, almost 2.5 times what we had the previous year. So fully programmed out, and we've seen great growth there. Our Opera House as well, fully programmed out. A ton of events there. We just bring all kinds of people through, and we're able to kind of keep that cultural heritage, that building that's on the National Historical Registry. And so that's awesome. And then, of course, the things like our sports programs, our youth programs, and all of our camps and movies in the park, concerts in the park, all that fun stuff. It was fun last summer. I told the story. I went out to play pickleball one Saturday evening, and afterward, the movie was going on, so I just kind of went down to check out. And you had a packed house at the pickleball courts, and people kind of spread out there. And then you went down in the packed hillside with movies in the park. And that, to me, it just said community. You know, that's a community Saturday night with all ages involved. So I love that we're able to do that, and that you all support that. Cedar Crest Golf Course is another real success story. If you had come to us 7-8 years ago, we would have said Cedar Crest Golf Course is tough sledding, because we were subsidizing it to the tune of several $100,000 out of our general fund. We didn't have many options, because this property, even if you wanted to, and I don't, and I didn't, I don't think any of us wanted to, you couldn't turn it into anything but a passive park. The way the contract had worked, it had to be a park land. So at least the golf course brought in money, right, as opposed to a trail or a passive park. Well, I'm really pleased to say a diligent plan, which included bringing in Premier Golf to run this operation. Premier Golf runs golf courses all over the Puget Sound. We brought them in to run it. We had amazing staff work and research put into it. We cut some costs. We were diligent about paying off our debt. And we're now in a scenario where all the debt's paid off on the golf course and is running a surplus every year, so we can start paying back some of that and also investing back in the course. We believe this golf course is a real asset to the community. Municipal golf course that, as you can see, is record-breaking rounds. It's clearly one of the more popular courses in the area and getting more popular every year. So for the golfers, it's obviously a huge asset, but I think even for the rest of the community, and a lot of people just go up to bleachers and enjoy the scenery while you eat up there or something. So really pleased with that. Comfort Park's another area we're really proud of. Great job by our team this past Christmas season, lighting that up. And I had so many people tell me they just enjoyed walking through there, just on their own with family members. And so great job by the team. We're trying to keep that Christmas tree the biggest one in the county. We're going to add a little more next year. So we have fun with that. Also, the park and the spray park, if you come by here in the summer, it's just great to see so many families out enjoying that as well. EB Waterfront Phase 4. This is I don't know, how many of you have been on the EB Waterfront Trail? A lot of you, yeah. This is definitely, this and Bayview are probably our two most popular trails. The last phase will be divided into two parts here. So we'll complete the trail section along the dike, and then we'll also remove an existing structure there off of Sunnyside and put a parking lot here in 2024. 2025 we'll complete the Sunnyside Boulevard connection with the First Street bypass and then pave that parking lot. So by 2025 you'll have even more opportunity to kind of walk this. You can see there's still one gap out there, but the rest you'll be able to kind of create different loops for yourself. So kudos to the state. We've consistently, this has been one on our lobby list at the state, and we've gotten over $2 million in funding for this. That's enabled us to do this a lot more quickly than we would have been able to. The Marysville to Lake Stevens Trail is up by Bayview. Wanted to touch on that. Can I get a show of hands for Bayview Trail as well? If you've been on Bayview, I've probably seen you because I'm out there a lot. Bayview connects to Centennial now, which is great. It's made it a regional trail. That was our number one priority. We also want to go south with that also. And so we got some grant money from the state last year to get some engineering and studies done. And we'll continue to, so it's going to get to 30% design this year. We'll continue to seek funding for that, and over the next several years, hopefully be able to take it south of 528 towards Lake Stevens and into Lake Stevens. We're partnering with them on this. And Strawberry Fields, this was a really neat partnership. I want to thank Nate Nehring, my son's here, he's on the county council. I want to thank the county council and the county executive of the county for giving the city $1 million towards this project. Amazon also donated $140,000 towards this, and then the city council funded the rest for this $1.7 million project, which turfed this field out there, added bleachers, a playground feature for kids is coming in this year as part of that, and some other improvements, fencing and different things. This was really important. We have 3 great fields out there, but none of them were usable this time of year. It's just so much water out there. We can now use this field year-round. You can hold different events there with the bleachers and different things. So it's really, and we have open community nights where you can just come out and play pickup soccer on Friday nights and others. So a really neat partnership and a great asset for the community. Another one was Pump Track. This is another neat story. You've heard about some grassroots impetus to some of our projects tonight. That youngster there in the bottom, well, my bottom right, yeah, is with the Pacific Northwest t-shirt on. He is Landon Oliphant, and it was his idea to build this pump track, and he brought it forth to our Parks Board, and it made a lot of sense. You know, the closest ones I think were Bellingham and Leavenworth, and he said these are really popular, and it'd be a great thing to have Marysville put a stamp in the area and have one of these. And so, you know, the city council funded this project, and we were cutting the ribbon on a beautiful day earlier in 2023, in the fall of 2023. And if you haven't had a chance, go out and watch some of the kids or others riding on this. It's a really neat experience, a very popular addition to our parks inventory. We also, you know, much like our streets, when we build stuff, we want to maintain it. We have a lot of playgrounds and a lot of parks that are kind of community parks. They're smaller. But what you don't want in a community that you live in or an area you live in is to have a rusted out playground set that nobody uses. So the council's been really great and diligent about funding a couple of these refurbishments every single year. So you saw Comfort was one last year, but Harborview as well, which was in that video, I think. And in 2024, you'll get Strawberry Fields, which I mentioned, North Point East, and then Jennings Nature Park, which if you drive by Jennings Nature Park now, you see it's almost ready to go. We need about 5 days of really good weather to finish that off. So it'll probably be springtime, and you'll be able to get the kids out and play in that. And as we get towards the close, if you have any questions, start thinking of those. Maybe I'd love to answer questions. That's always a highlight. I really love the easy questions, but we'll take any of them. Any of them you have to offer, we'll take them. So we couldn't accomplish what we do without our volunteers. And I mean that. But I'm continually impressed at the volunteer spirit in Marysville. And we just have so many awesome volunteers, from service clubs to just citizens who get out and volunteer, just all over the place. Some examples are park maintenance that they help with, disaster preparedness, those CERT classes that I told you about, coaching youth sports. We have an army of youth sports coaches investing in our youth, helping to keep our neighborhoods safe. Our Marysville Volunteer Patrol team, we have some of them here tonight. MVP does an awesome job helping out our department with that. Litter pickup, that's near and dear to my heart. I get a report every week on our staff's litter pickup, and our staff does an awesome job, but we go from Sunnyside all the way out north past the Lakewood area, and from I-5 to Highway 9. You wouldn't want to see the property tax bill if we had city staff picking up every single roadway. You just can't do it. So the volunteers are integral to litter pickup, and I applaud those of you who get out and volunteer to be part of our litter league. If you are interested in litter league, let us know. We can hook you up. In fact, you saw part of that in the video. That was a litter league event. So we get over $11,000 of tracked volunteer service in 2023. That's just to the city. A lot of you volunteer for the school district. You might volunteer at the YMCA, at your church. So this is just the city volunteer, but I know there's a ton of other volunteer hours. All of it matters greatly to the community. And then areas where we can kind of support the community as well with certain grants. I should mention we did open up a new family support center at Jennings Park, Link Northwest, and several community nonprofits. Some of them are here in the room tonight. They work with cancer patients and others. And so just an amazing facility. Ryan Brown runs that, does a great job with Link Northwest. And so that's a facility you can utilize. We've distributed $430,000 of community development block grant funds that the council distributes every year, or every 2 years, I'm sorry. We're a big enough city to get those directly to the city. If you're a smaller community, those go through the county and you kind of get your share of it, but we are big enough where we get all that in the city of Marysville. These go to serve underserved areas and help folks rebuild and put in amenities in areas of the city that might be kind of suffering from neglect. And so it's a really neat investment. You see some of the ways we're able to help with these. And council also has $200,000 a year in human services grants that contribute to that. So thank you to all these partner organizations for that. Another really important kind of concluding feature or program that I want to talk to you a little bit about is our mesh housing. So mesh housing is really important. Everybody knows there's a homeless crisis. I can tell you from experience at Marysville, a good chunk of the homeless crisis comes from the drug crisis. It just does, but not all of it. There's people tragically homeless for other reasons. Could be a domestic violence situation or a real tough job loss or a medical situation. It could be any number of things. A lot of them are drug related, which we talked about already, and then there are some others. So what do we do on the back end? I talked to you about some of the front end. On the back end, the city owns 6 homes and throughout the community that we use as what's called mesh houses. And as you can see, 20 people have been served there since 2016. And that might not sound like a lot, but it's a pretty decent amount, because when we say served there, this isn't a type of deal where you come in and then you're kicked out a month later. This means when you come in, you're not going back out until you've got a long-term solution. That was the goal here. How do we not just Band-Aid this thing for this family or this person for a few months and then they're back out in the woods or whatever? How do we get them to a self-sustaining life? That takes time, particularly with the housing costs and the situation we're in with people that maybe are suffering through some things. This would not be possible. The city and the council and I, we work on this. Gloria did a great job helping, stand this thing up. She did yeoman's work on that to get this started. And we can throw money at it and we can buy houses, but we need partners. And that's what we have with these entities listed here that help in a number of different ways. We're not afraid to partner with our faith community here in Marysville. And they get in there with mentors and help mentor these people. And it's mentors that have come out of addiction lifestyles in many cases or times when they were homeless. And they just get in and mentor them. How do you get out of this? I often, make the joke that if someone like I were to go in and try and mentor someone like this, they'd probably go, thanks, but you have absolutely no idea what I've been through. So we get people in there that do have every idea of what you've been through, that can mentor you and get you volunteering. And in many cases, will get them a job through one of these organizations or whatever. So anyway, current residents right now we have in there, and then we've helped that many people to date. To date, Mesh Homes has served 16 men, 5 women, and 7 children. So actually it's 28. We've updated that since the 20 that are on there. 28 people have come through that program. We currently have 12 residents in, and that'll be growing here shortly. Thanks to everybody involved in that. I talked about legislative priorities already, but the last slide just kind of shows you our most recent visit there to Olympia. And those were some of the projects we talked with our legislators about. So I would like to close by, I appreciate my family so much, and I want to recognize them just because, there's a lot of commitment comes into this stuff, and I have a real supportive family that I really appreciate. My wife, Mary Ann, my daughter, Kristen here, my son-in-law, Tyler, my son, Nick over there, and my son, Nate, who I just mentioned over there. And boy, I got my two of my 3 grandkids. I got Kennedy here and JJ. I think he might be sleeping. Hopefully the rest of you are awake for the whole thing, but nothing like having grandkids. I love the bumper sticker that said, geez, if I had known grandkids were this great, I would have skipped the kid part and just gone right to that. And I want to thank all of you. It is the honor of a lifetime to serve as your mayor. I'm really excited about starting a new 4-year term here and really excited to work with our city council. But it's never lost on me that I work for you. You're the ones that decide every 4 years whether or not that I stay here, and it's an honor, a true honor to serve in this capacity and invest in the community that I've raised my kids in, just like you, and live in and love dearly. So with that, I'll open it up if there are any questions from anybody. And are we able to get online questions also? Okay, so we'll rotate. We'll start in the crowd here, and then we'll take some online. Yeah.
One observation and one question. We moved from Everett about 6 years ago, and voila, we were in an HOA suddenly, a homeowner association. And I would really do a shout out to them because they're often seen as clipboard Nazis, determining what color your house is, but they're your informal partners in the safety, community, beautification. We all pitch in and work the communal areas of our neighborhoods, and we're in one with about 79 homes. So you've got a big asset in HOA.
Great
just
point.
an observation. But the other thing was years at Everett, developing the riverfront, in the Lowell district of Everett, they had a collapse of a public-private partnership early on.
Yep.
And how do you vet these type of, private entrepreneurs that come along to do that?
That's a really, really good question. Gloria and I had this conversation just this week. That's a really good question. It's not easy, and I think sometimes it's trial and error. It's not. The Cascade Industrial Center was a good example of this. You don't always hit it on the first try. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that. I think you learn a lot on your first try, and that's where you're able to start vetting better, maybe on your second try. I think maybe Everett found that out. We may very well find that out ourselves. And so I think you want to make education, and you want to do your due diligence on the front end, but it could mean that this just takes some time. And the most important thing is to get it right. So, yeah.
It sounds like it's a ways off, though, obviously.
It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, thank you.
Really good question, and great observation on the homeowners association. There's a lot of those I'm in one as well, and you're right. That is thankless work, but it helps keep the city running.
Are
So.
there more developing, as we get developments
Mm-hmm.
in the city?
Yeah.
So we're still seeing those, I think.
Yeah, some are stronger than others, but yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Do we have a question online?
Yes. We have an online question from Charlie who's asking about when the weather was bad a couple of weeks back, will they get any credit for garbage and recycling that was not picked up?
No, yeah, good question. Well, I think we have to differentiate if it was picked up at a later date, then I think the answer is no, right, Jeff? Yeah, from Waste Management or City of Marysville. If you literally had a missed pickup, call our billing team and we can work with you on that. But what the citywide response was is if we couldn't pick it up on that day, it was picked up at a later date and you weren't penalized or you weren't charged extra for the extra that you left out. So hopefully that answers this question. I realize that's not always convenient. I mean, I don't like having my garbage sit there either and not get picked up, but with those big rigs, if they get sliding down a hill or something and wiping out cars, we're gonna have a lot more to pay for than that. But yeah, that's, I guess, the best answer I can give for that. Yes.
So you mentioned the I-5-529 interchange project.
Yep.
I know there's a number of closures planned for 529 this year. So I was just wondering, how do you feel about that? And are you worried at all about how that's going to affect the economy here?
Yeah, good question. So that's a state-run project, so we don't get to decide what is closed or when it's closed, but it is necessary to have some closures to build that. I would think we should differentiate, though. A good number of those closures, my understanding is, are to repair the existing 90-plus-year-old, I think, bridges. Am I right, Jeff? On 529. So I think some of the big closures are due to that, not the new interchange. Now, you undoubtedly will have closures for interchanges. I think what the state's trying to do is keep one side open with north-south when they do have to close one side to do the bridge repairs and then switch it. And then you may see some weekends where the whole thing's closed, which you've seen before. But I think most of that is for the bridges, not the interchange. The interchange work doesn't start till much later, so I think that's what you're seeing there. You'll see some undoubtedly some closures with that too. Does it concern me? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a key area, but I think that not, it's not worth not having the project, right? I mean, the benefit we're going to get from having that interchange and from having the bridge repairs and from having that extra lane on I-5 long-term will be far more valuable than some of the pain it will cause up front. But I just want to make sure we differentiate, though, that the bridge, I think the ones you're talking about are not the interchange. They're for maintenance work.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry.
Yeah,
I was just asking
that's okay.
how you felt about all of
Yeah. No, it's concerning. I know it's a hassle. I know it is a big problem when you're traveling there. So it is concerning, and the degree that it can be mitigated, we are always for that. So, yeah. Good question. Thank you. Online, and then we'll get back here.
We have a suggestion from
Okay.
Deb that the city could save money by not putting in the new street knobs on new streets. For example, is that
Okay.
she said new knobs on Grove Street make it too noisy.
Oh, I think the beacons in the center. Yeah, pavement markings. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's a reasonable suggestion, but there's a lot that goes into that safety. I don't know if you want to give Jeff the microphone. He could probably, not to put you on the spot, but he could probably tell you why we would do that.
In fact, yeah, those pavement markings, those are long-term pavement markings. We're actually investing too in our paint truck that's arriving this year, so we're actually going to be able to do our own markings. So thanks to the council, it'll be another big investment in our community, not having to contract that work out. So.
Yeah. But point taken, and thank you for that feedback. Yes, back here.
Do you know where the new Brown Bear car wash will be?
Ooh, is that up in the Soper Hill area? Yeah, Soper Hill area. Any online?
There's a suggestion asking you to make the bicycles pay for registration and tabs.
Wow.
The person says that bike lanes make it more dangerous for cars because they take away 4 feet of roadway.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of that. I mean, I understand what they're saying. That is kind of the collision between cars and bikes. We often get people in the building that'll say we don't have enough bike lanes, and so I guess, yeah, it's just trying to find a balance there. But I understand the frustration when you'd like to see a little more room. The bike lanes don't usually take up what would be an extra lane of traffic, though, but it does scrunch it down some. So point taken. Thank you. What about in the building? We have another question? Yes, back here, and then, yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Robin Sparks, and I am a KISS patient navigator with the C-Suite Center for Hope over in the Jennings Park nonprofit hub. And Mayor Nehring, because of your support, your vision, and your leadership, this community came together and to help over 100 cancer patients, their families, and caregivers in 2023. Patients talked about Marysville to their oncologist. In fact, someone who works at Fred Hutch here in Marysville went down to work in Seattle, told their director, you gotta see what's happening up here in Marysville. So I got the call. The Hutch came up, we met, and Marysville is now a huge part of what they're looking at with research and programs. In fact, I can't divulge anything right now, but we have a huge research project coming up.
Great.
That is going to impact our youth here in Marysville. So on behalf of the Hutch, UW, part of the consortium that we're in, and Seattle Children's, and of course the American Cancer Society, and most of all, the C-Suite Center for Hope. Thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you for the great work you do. Appreciate the work you do. Thank you. Online?
We have a question from Keith. If there are long lines during the morning and evening commute during the SR 529 closure, would it be possible for a police officer to do traffic control at First and State?
Oh, okay. Chief, we can take a, yeah.
I was just typing out my online response to Keith, but what I was going to tell him is that we're going to work closely with Public Works Streets to monitor those kind of traffic volumes. And certainly as some of these other projects come in and impact our community, like the mayor said, it's going to take a little bit of pain to make things better for us. So we're going to work together as a city to make sure that we mitigate those issues as closely as we can.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. Thanks for the suggestion as well. Good point. Yes.
Very same lines. We enjoyed the fireworks here this year very much.
Oh, yeah.
But upon exiting, we were
Yeah.
parked in the, outside it was, well, the people were very well behaved and followed the traffic, but having a police officer to help ensure safety would have been a good thing.
You're spot on. I think that was a part of our debrief. And I think we've got a better plan for this year, and I think you're right on with that. Chief looks like he wants to add something in there.
Sure, just two messages. One is we are going to have more officers assigned to the special event down on the waterfront to make sure that it's safe, also expedite when traffic needs to leave. The other thing that we are going to have working that night is more officers that will be out doing fireworks enforcement. Consistently over the past several years as your police chief, that's a complaint I get right on the 5th of July, sometimes leading up to, but then also too as we approach some of our New Year's celebration times. So this year we will have, because our staffing is up and we're able to dedicate some staffing to that, a team of officers that just will be working on that. So the message that I have for all of you is come join us at the waterfront with the Green Parks team and the awesome show that we're going to have on the 4th. And don't get that expensive ticket for lighting fireworks at home.
Before we take an online question, I just wanted to recognize too, because I didn't have a chance in the state of the city, Susie Elsner, our court administrators here. And our court, I mentioned how important it was to have a municipal jail. Having a municipal court where you can prosecute these crimes is just as important. If not, you're at the mercy of somebody else being willing to prosecute them if they have the staff to do so. So we're thankful to have our well-run municipal court here. Thanks, Susie. Go ahead, Connie, nothing? Okay. If you're online and have a question, just let us know. We'll stay in the room here. Is there any others in, yeah?
I think some guys did this building here.
Oh, great. Did you have a question? No. Thank you for your work on the building. I think we are so excited for how it looks and what it's become. And I'll just mention, since you're here, it's really exciting to have people come and visit too, businesses or whatnot that we're looking to recruit. And when they come in this facility, I think this community, what an asset, and the community's got their act together. So hopefully people have been able to enjoy it. We really appreciate this public space out here, Marysville for the holidays and whatnot. And if you were here today, you had a long line for Dick's food truck that never ended. But yeah, the building's phenomenal, and we just appreciate all the contractors and everybody who put a lot of sweat and a lot of hard work into this. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. All right.
First, since the time that you've been here, this city has really changed. I mean, it's gone through some pretty expansions and fairly different from what it was many years ago. And I see the growth and the ability to try to manage that growth, but I'm just curious, what does the city see maybe for the future, the next 2 to 5 years even, as far as how does a downtown look? I know it's got a series of strip malls from north on up, but I would imagine at some point there's a desire to develop that.
Yeah, good question, and thanks for your services in our fire department for so many years as well, Daryl. Yes, so State Avenue, well, we're in the middle of a comp plan amendment that our community development department is working on that'll kind of project out the next 20 years. So it's a good question because I'll answer the State Avenue question, but to start with, I think it's an important question because the Growth Management Act, which was passed in Washington State in 1994 by law, ensures and makes it so that every single city has to allow for a certain amount of growth when you do your comp plan updates. So that's mandated. So essentially the state, pushes it down and it's divided up amongst counties and then amongst cities, and you're allocated a growth target, whatever that might be for the next 7, 8 years or whatever. And you have to zone for that. It doesn't necessarily mean that growth will come, but you have to as a city zone for it. So if they say you've got to take X amount of new housing, you've got to zone for it. And then if the developers come and build it, that's why it's sometimes frustrating to us when we see growth. I know the council and I deal with this all the time. We would like sometimes we're like slow down. A lot of growth coming in. We just want to get our arms around it. So we live here just like you do, and we fight all the things you do with that growth. But recognize that there's very few things, it's really limited what you can do at the local level because you have to zone for it. So you can zone it, but once it's zoned, you can't stop it from coming unless there's a significant non-compliance issue. But so that's how growth happens, and that's why the Snohomish County is growing so much, is because so much of that growth allocation comes here, and so many people want to move here. There's other communities throughout Washington where the opposite is happening and people are moving out. But State Avenue is an area where we've recognized needs some work. And so that is a project we're tackling. That'll be a really long-term project because you can't really force existing businesses to do significant upgrades, in the private sector. It's a pretty heavy hand. But what you can do is kind of what we did down here with the new Walgreens and the new Mod Pizza area and the coastal community. When it turns over, you can have different design standards and things that you have to comply with. So that's what we're in the process of setting further north on State, so that as it does turn over, like you said, in however many years it takes, we'll see something different in the future. And so, yes, we're aware of that. The community development team is working on it. The council's working on it. And over time, you'll see State, start here and just slowly. Another big thing coming, which I didn't mention, is a bus rapid transit line into Marysville from community transit. So bus rapid transit is essentially the closest thing to light rail on wheels, so on bus wheels. So you essentially, it's hop on, hop off. Yeah, it just pulls in, people hop on, and it takes off, and it's designed to get people places quickly. And so it'll be nice to have that all throughout this corridor in Marysville. Good question.
Sure. It's a testament to the degree of good work that's been happening over the years. It's become a very desirable place to live. And so a testament to all the good work that you've done in the city council, but also the problems that come with it.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a question. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the wonderful update. Can you provide an update on how the city is working with the school district to keep our schools in better financial shape?
Yeah, well, really good question. Get this question a lot. So the unfortunate thing is, I guess from the standpoint of how much help we can give, we have zero governing authority over the school district. So the school district's run by 5 separately elected school board members who then hires a school superintendent who's essentially, I guess the administrative head of that school. They have all the authority over the school district. Every single decision that's made, all the money that's spent comes from that. So even if, let's say the city had an extra $20 million sitting around, the city council could not, even if they wanted to, transfer that money to the school district. That would be illegal. So we can't give a cent towards building new schools, towards refurbishing schools, towards administrating or running schools, because they're just 2 separate entities. State law is very clear on that. We're audited every single year on what we spend. Those 15 clean audits come from that. And so, yeah, you're not able to give money to a school district or to a regional fire authority or a library or anything else. They've got to raise their own money. That's difficult. I think there's a lot of funding obstacles that we can help with. So I'll get into how can we help? Well, tomorrow we have a government affairs committee meeting with some council members and myself and city staff with the school district. We have those regularly. I meet with Dr. Robbins pretty much every single month and talk to him on other occasions. A number of us were out supporting the school levy. What was it, a year ago now, I think, or so? A number of council members, myself and others in this room were out supporting that. So we can do a lot of things to support the school district. We have very candid conversations with the district in those meetings, I can tell you. We have real opinions, like I'm sure many of you in the community do, about how we might be able to do some things differently in our schools. We share those. We share them consistently, and we share them honestly. And then, but that's really, at the end of the day, they can take it or leave it. I mean, it's their decision on how they want to move forward. I guess that's the long and the short of it. But we will always, and I guess I'll just speak for myself, I'll commit to you as mayor, I will always seek to, in any way I can, partner with the Marysville School District to make it stronger. Right now, it's a struggle. And I think that, there's some answers that could come out of the district that would maybe help that, and some things that could be done differently. But at the end of the day, we'll offer our advice. We'll partner where we can to help advocate for funding, and we will seek to partner in other areas where we can for shared facilities and whatnot. For instance, if we were able to get that Riverwalk sports facility, we'll probably be able to open it up to school kids at times where there's no tournaments. I think all that's very, very important. I think another area where we could partner, and we've talked about this recently with the school district, is there's some state laws that could really dramatically transform how you fund school districts. And so we have offered to, I outlined how aggressive we are in advocating for city resources and the millions of dollars we brought in. We have offered to team up with them and put that horsepower behind advocating with them for those kind of changes to state law that would help school districts, particularly school districts like Marysville that are at a disadvantage when it comes to some of these things that aren't, the funding model is not fair. So we're limited in what we can do, but there are things we can do, and we're committed to continue doing those. And if we find new ways to partner, we'll do that. And I hope that there comes some help by the way of how some of the stuff is funded in the future, so that it's not constantly going out to the voters and asking for levy dollars or bond dollars also. And I do think, some of our schools are aging. We're going to have to deal with that at some point in the future, so offer that as well. Good question. Thank you. Anybody else in the building here?
We have another question
Okay.
from Jareen. Can anything be done to help the traffic mess on 88? So
Yeah.
much traffic, no turn lanes, people passing illegally, etc.
Yeah, she's right. That's our toughest corridor, as I mentioned during the speech. It's tough to widen there. There's all kinds of obstacles. The project, I will say, that we showed on here, I don't know if she saw that. We'll put that slide back up maybe. There's a series of roundabouts coming in that does involve widening on those intersections there. So it will make it easier. It may not look like it when you look at this, but it will make it easier when those are all constructed. I'm not going to say it's not going to be the equivalent of maybe a new interchange or 2 new lanes like we have on State Avenue or things like that. But it's the best we can do with what we have right now. We've tried for years to work out ways around that cemetery, and it's really tough legally. But anyway, this is the fix we can offer here in the next couple of years, and we'll continue to look at out-of-the-box solutions, but it isn't easy. You're correct, whoever had that question. Well, we're getting close to 8 o'clock. I'm sure a lot of you have stuff to do. If there's a last question online, I can take it. Any last question in here? I'm happy to hang around if you want to come up and ask a question too. Thank you all for coming, spending your night. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you to those who joined online too. We appreciate that very much.